fugitive who claims to have given the FBI information on the Biden family's business dealings in China is now facing decades behind bars.
Brooke Singman joins us live in studio with more. Brooke.
Hey, good morning, guys. That's right. Israeli professor Gal Luft has been on the run since February after he was arrested in Cyprus for allegedly selling weapons to China. He vanished while out on bail, now claiming his arrest is the result of political persecution by U.S. authorities who he says are trying to protect the Biden family. The Justice Department finally releasing the details of those charges yesterday, which include 5 counts of arms trafficking, 2 counts of making false statements, and 1 count for illegally selling Iranian oil to China. Now, this comes as we are learning just how deeply connected the first son is to the president's inner circle. Nearly a dozen emails dating back to the Obama administration reveal Hunter had several business-related meetings with officials who now hold top jobs in his father's administration. That includes Jake Sullivan, who now sits as White House National Security Advisor, and now Secretary of State Antony Blinken. One email reveals a particularly interesting exchange with former White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain, who wrote to Hunter, quote, "I'm hitting up a few very close friends on a very confidential basis to write checks of $2,000 each. We need to keep this low key because raising money for the residents now is bad PR."
10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, 10% for the big guy. I'm creepy and I'm sleepy. I swore that she was 18. Come on, Jack. Biden crime family. Neat. Creep. Thief.
The Biden crime family, 10%. I love it. I love the memes. I love them so much. We keep them coming, baby, and we keep them popping. Today is Tuesday, July 11th, 2023. DOJ announces multiple indictments against a whistleblower for Joe Biden's crimes. We'll get into all of it. Judge rejects appeal from Biden White House, accused of creating an Orwellian ministry of truth and censoring free speech. The man behind that ruling will join the show. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey joins us soon. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show, and this is the Benny Brigade, baby. We launched the Benny Brigade 1 week ago today, and it is popping. We are blown away by the amount of support. We are so thankful to you. Pop on over to BennyJohnson.com. Become a member today for exclusive meetups, exclusive VIP access to our VIP guests, the opportunity to ask questions during our live streams, and most importantly, Benny swag. Look at this sweet Benny Brigade, all American made, all American sourced, leather strap, American flag, Benny Brigade keychain that we will be shipping to you if you sign up for an annual membership today. And also sign up for an annual membership today, you'll get 1 month free. It's the best deal online. $5. Not even a foot long at Subway is $5 anymore. And more importantly, we're saving America here, baby. We're saving America. And Joe Biden doesn't even want to be in America. Joe Biden's in England right now. What's Joe Biden doing? Well, he's actually in Lithuania because he's there to go meet NATO. Time to go meet NATO and talk about cluster munitions to Ukraine and the breaking of the Geneva Convention. That's right, baby. It wasn't good. Joe Biden went and stopped over in England. Why did he only stop in England for like 12 hours? Normally a president would spend more time there. What are they pumping Joe Biden full of on the plane? What sort of little cocktail does he got going on? Something was weird with Joe Biden. Of course, he brought his cheat sheet. You can see here. We covered this live on the show yesterday, but we thought it was worth building out a little segment block at the top of the show to show you exactly how embarrassing your nation is abroad. The leader of this country, apparently abroad. Joe Biden had a cheat sheet meeting with the Prime Minister of England, Rishi Sunak. The cheat sheet said, F-16s, Turkey, and Atlantic Declaration. Yeah. Joe Biden also broke every single bit of protocol when he met the King of England. Joe Biden grabbed hold of the King of England for stability, just walking around a little grassy field at Windsor Palace. You can see here Joe Biden unable to keep his paws off of King Charles. Now, Joe Biden, King Charles is in his 70s. It's a little bit old for Biden. outside of the typical window for Joe and someone he wouldn't be able to keep his paws off of. Here he's like, hey, go up the stairs. Okay, and Joe Biden's like, no, you go up the stairs. And he's like, well, I'm king of this country. What the hell's wrong with you? And then Joe Biden salutes the wrong military. Joe Biden's not supposed, and then Joe Biden just decides to stand there. Look at this. This clip is unbelievable. This clip is unbelievable. Like, breaking this thing down, I'm gonna have an aneurysm. Much like Joe Biden had multiple aneurysms. Do you know that Joe Biden had multiple aneurysms? They had to open up his head in the hospital. Joe Biden says this, and it's true. In the 80s, Joe Biden had all these aneurysms. They had to take out parts of his brain. Doesn't that make sense? Look at this. The king's like, go up the stairs. Joe Biden's like, hey, you go up the stairs. And the king's like, okay, well, then I'll stand here where I'm supposed to stand. And Biden just like muscles his way in. Is like, I'll stand here, Jack. What you doing? Oh, man, it's so embarrassing. Joe Biden also walking up to meet the Prime Minister of England with his little note cards in hand, looking like a robot. Look at this dude. Look at the way he walks. He was walking like a T-1000 in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Oh, man. Oh, it's so hard. And then he nearly trips there on the flat sidewalk. It's hard to watch. It's difficult to watch. This is how you are represented abroad. Joe Biden at the ceremony at Windsor Palace, of course, had to be manhandled by King Charles, who's not actually that much. I think the difference in age between the two of these guys is not that much. And so, apparently, according to the British tabloids, King Charles started yelling at Joe Biden and yelling at his guards, like saying, what the hell is this guy doing? Why is this important? I mean, why do we even care about these globalist goofballs? Watch this. Watch this moment. King Charles, why do we even care about the royal family? Watch him. He's like, you got to go this way now. And Joe Biden just goes the opposite direction. We care about this because a nation is judged based on the strength of the leadership that it chooses for itself. This is a representation of all of us. This matters because the rest of the world sees us and sees this and knows that we are weak, knows that we have a soft, feeble, dementia-riddled underbelly, and feels prone to attack. And the deep state and the permanent state that supports Joe Biden and props him up, they feel vulnerable. And we're going to get to the whistleblower that they have locked up here in just a second. But I will give you, ladies and gentlemen, an alternative. This is what it looked like when Donald Trump was walking with Charles's mum, the Queen of England. Now, you'll notice here that Donald Trump, in the very same little grassy lawn in front of Windsor Palace, the historic home of the royal family, Donald Trump walked in front of the Queen for like a split second there. And everyone screamed from the rooftops, Trump broke protocol. Oh my God, it's so embarrassing. Look at Joe Biden wandering around like a dolt, like an old donkey, just walking in front of the king the entire time. Like, you're not supposed to do that. Joe Biden broke every conceivable protocol here in this meeting with the king. Not that I really care about this stuff, but it matters because when Trump did it, it was nuclear war. It was DEFCON 200,000. Melt the gold at Fort Knox. The country's done. And then here's Joe Biden wandering around. If you saw an old man walking like that down the street, wouldn't you go up and like try and help him? Like, look at Biden squinting, confused, incapable of like walking, incapable of like carrying himself, clearly like swaying from side to side. That's not the way a person's supposed to walk. You would go up and you'd be like, sir, what nursing home did you escape from? What's wrong with you? Can I help you? Let me call the little silver alert number. If you saw an old man wandering down the street like that, you'd be like, he has a confused old dementia that's escaped, has applesauce on his chin. We got to help him. Here's a tweet from Sprinter Team. This is just a diplomatic and international diplomacy account that I thought was kind of interesting. Biden violated protocol several times, which pissed off Charles III. During his meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden at Windsor Palace, Charles III lost his patience and scolded the guards, writes the Daily Mail. The head of the United States stopped and began to convince the guardsmen that he had nothing against Britain. The king at the time was waiting, then spread his arms and said, "Stop talking." That's the video I just played you. In another video, Biden appears to be ignoring Charles III during an inspection of the Welsh guards. He simply walks somewhere staring into space. Either Biden is intentionally disrespecting our king because he is an Irish nationalist, or he has Alzheimer's, according to a palace insider. During the greetings, Biden broke protocol by grabbing Charles. You're not supposed to grab the monarch, hugging him behind his back, and suggesting that he use the king as a guide, which is what this absolutely looks like. President of the United States was in London for only 24 hours, which raises questions. Why was he only there? He met with the prime minister for only 40 minutes. And of course, he needed a note card for that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to bring up one final thing about this, and it's an article that you got to see. Very important. From the last time that Joe Biden went there. It's about Joe Biden's long fart. Joe Biden apparently, Alex, I'm going to ask you to grab this from the New York Post. Joe Biden apparently met with King Charles and his wife Camilla, and decided to crop dust the entire event at this little climate summit that they were at a year ago. And Camilla can't stop talking about the fact that Joe Biden decided to mine for renewable natural gas in front of her and let out a long fart. Camilla Parker Bowles, Queen of England, can't stop talking about Joe Biden's long fart. Let's just read here, just in case you're wondering if this is something new. No, Joe Biden's been on a downhill path for a long time. President Biden let out a long, loud fart while talking with the Duchess of Cornwall at a climate summit. Camilla Parker Bowles hasn't stopped talking about the 78-year-old's long fart. It had been reported. The pair were making small talk at a global climate change gathering in Scotland. According to palace insiders, it was long and loud and impossible to ignore. Camilla hasn't stopped talking about it, the fart. So Joe Biden decided to demonstrate the power of natural gas at this renewable energy conference. And this is, of course, the image of what it looks like when you're talking to Joe Biden and he lets out an extremely long, loud fart. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty a complete embarrassment for our country. We were covering this live. We've been covering Joe Biden's trip live. Joe Biden got the hell out of America whilst he decided to go put his political enemies in prison, while there's cocaine bags found at the White House, while his own DOJ is finding it impossible to prosecute his own son. They are actually apparently pulling back the charges. Things are going bad here. It takes a lot of energy to actually cover these events, and that is why our cups are full every single morning with Blackout coffee. Now, this is my Patriot Mobile cup because Patriot Mobile sent me a cool little cup. We do have a Blackout coffee mug, but I got to do the dishes just like everyone else. Sometimes I can't drink from it every morning. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have Blackout coffee in our mugs every single morning because it gives us the pep in our step and the capacity to actually cover the news, the energy to cover the news. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Benny and use the coupon code to get 20% off your first order. They roast and they brew and they make that coffee right here in America, and it tastes delicious, like sweet, molassesy, chocolatey freedom beans, baby. blackoutcoffee.com/Benny, or click the link in the description. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. The DOJ has announced multiple indictments against a whistleblower who allegedly did the exact same thing that Hunter Biden did. There's a guy named Gail Luft. We've been talking about him for the last couple of days because he went missing. And now suddenly, Biden's Department of Justice has indicted this guy. For doing what? Oh, for FARA violations. What's a FARA violation, you might ask? Oh, it's when you act as an agent of a foreign government and take money from them in order to influence American policy. Exactly what the Bidens were doing. And where were they taking that money from? China. Where's Gail Luft taking his money from? China. Boom, baby. It ain't hard to connect the dots here. Joe Biden is putting in prison people that know his crimes. We have officially reached the tipping point in this country. We are officially over the edge, okay? The tipping point is here. The dictatorship, the war on terror, we're going to go fight Iraq and Afghanistan because they're dictatorships. Because Uday and Qusay Hussein can get away with literal murder and everyone else lives by a different set of rules. We're that country now. They don't have free and fair elections. We're that country now. We're it. This is the red line, okay? Let's read. DOJ announces multiple indictments against whistleblower who alleged that Biden received payments from the Communist Chinese Party, an affiliated individual. And Gail Luft would know this because he also received payments from the Communist Chinese Party and the same oil company that the Bidens were doing the deal with. The Justice Department announced multiple indictments against Dr. Gail Luft, an Israeli-American co-director of a think tank who gained notoriety as the missing witness against Joe Biden into Joe Biden's corruption. The New York Post recently shared a video of Luft where he broke down allegations against Biden, and he claimed that he had been arrested to prevent him from testifying to the House Oversight Committee with damning evidence against the first family. Not long after that video was released, Luft himself has been charged by the Biden DOJ for engaging in serious schemes involving the Chinese and Iranians, along with high-ranking former government officials. The charges include numerous offenses relating to failing to register under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, arms trafficking, Iranian sanctions, and making false statements to federal agents. Oh, interesting. So this dude gets the book thrown at him for the exact same crimes. In fact, probably far less than Hunter Biden, because this guy wasn't selling the office of the vice presidency. Here's the news, ladies and gentlemen. Gail Luft.
A fugitive, former Israeli army officer and co-director of a Maryland think tank is under federal indictment tonight. Gal Luft is charged with acting as an unregistered foreign agent, trafficking in arms, violating U.S. sanctions against Iran, and making false statements to federal agents. He says he was arrested in Cyprus to stop him from testifying before a congressional committee regarding bribery allegations against the Biden family. Luft makes those allegations in a video obtained exclusively by the New York Post.
I, who volunteered to inform the U.S. government about potential security breach and about compromising information about a man vying to be the next president, am now being hunted by the very same people whom I informed and may have to live on the run for the rest of my life.
Luft calls the charges against him completely political. We'll follow up with lawmakers on Capitol Hill on this investigation.
Okay, so check out this tweet from Gail Luft. Here's a dude on Twitter. I've been arrested in Cyprus. Politically motivated extradition request by the United States. The U.S. is claiming I'm an arms dealer. It would be funny if it weren't tragic. I have never been an arms dealer. The DOJ is trying to bury me to protect Joe, Hunter. Shall I name names? Gail Luft did name names, and we're going to go through his video, actually. Our incredible executive producer, ALX, broke down this 15-minute video that Gail Luft created detailing the Biden crimes. We're going to go into exactly why they want this man behind bars. But first, James Comer with his reaction, because it was James Comer who wanted Gail Luft to testify against the Bidens. Watch.
Company that Gail Luft was working for, who he was getting paid for, is the same company that the Bidens not only were getting paid for, they were also sharing office space with. So we definitely want to hear more about these allegations, and we want to see the notes from the FBI meeting. They sent 6 FBI agents, according to Gail Luft, to Brussels to interview him. I mean, obviously, they were concerned about something he had to say. There's some level of credibility there. So there are a lot of questions here, and it's just amazing the Department of Justice moves so quickly against some people. But then, Laura, the ultimate irony is one of the charges they levied against him was not being a registered foreign agent, which is the main thing that we've said the Bidens were all along, unregistered foreign agents.
Oh, well,
So, of course, the Bidens were unregistered foreign agents. They were driving around picking up bags of cash and bags of coke all over the world. FARA rules are very strict. This is how they got Paul Manafort, you might recall, the guy who was running Donald Trump's presidential campaign. They got him on FARA violations against Ukraine, of all places, saying that he did favors for the country of Ukraine, and then he got money for that, and then they went and confiscated his money, put the guy in prison. So they can go after anyone, anywhere, except for Hunter and Joe. Ron Johnson in the Senate is saying, this dog don't hunt. We need to give immunity to Gail Luft because he's the guy trying to put effectively a bow on the Biden crime schemes here, and you are trying to silence your whistleblower. Now, this is not the first guy that they've done this with, by the way. They have put major restrictions on the travel of Ukrainian oligarchs coming to America, banned various other people that would know the Biden schemes and the Biden international corruptions and cartelized American influence peddling. They've done this with the Department of Justice. This is why we don't live inside of a democracy. We live inside of a kleptocracy, an oligarchical system controlled by these people, and these people are goblins. They're monsters. Check this out. Ron Johnson saying, yo, this dog don't hunt.
When he heard that Joe Biden was going to be running for president, that alarmed him because he knew how compromised Joe Biden would be. So he met with 2 prosecutors from the Southern District of New York and 4 FBI agents in Brussels for 2 days in March of 2019. What's interesting about those individuals, one of the prosecutors from the Southern District of New York is the same prosecutor that prosecuted Patrick Ho, the money launderer that paid Hunter Biden $1 million to defend him. And in that trial, he prevented the name of Biden's from being brought into court. Also, one of the FBI agents was the same agent then that signed the subpoena from the Hunter Biden laptop. So, you know, what Dr. Luft has shown is the same financial transactions, the millions of dollars, the $100,000 per month retainer for Hunter, $65,000 for James Biden, paid by CEFC. He's got a wealth of information, but they never followed up on that meeting. Instead, they arrested him in Cyprus to silence him. They could have gone to Israel. He resides in Israel. We have extradition treaties, but they instead arrest him in Cyprus. Now, he's literally fleeing for his life right now. He's on the run. He's an important witness. He needs to be granted immunity to be able to testify and tell his story.
This is the most important question here, which is why are the Bidens not brought up on these charges? There's your most important smoking gun. Now, you could also argue that the literal smoking gun is the gun that Hunter Biden got illegally and then discarded in a dumpster next to a high school. That would also be a very, very clean way to lock up the Bidens for a long time. And we had Brett Tolman on, former federal prosecutor, telling us that dude, Hunter Biden should be in prison for the rest of his life based on just the charge alone. But this FARA violation is an obvious lock them up situation. They were taking massive bags of cash from all over the world. They were not registering as foreign agents. They were going directly to the intermediaries in these countries, these corrupt nations that, by the way, are enemies of America. It's one thing to go. It's one thing to go to Switzerland or to go to Liechtenstein or something and get a bag of cash. It's a totally different thing to go to China, which is trying to usurp American dominance in the world. Russia, we don't like Russia. Joe Biden's meeting with NATO today. We don't like Russia. Russia's mean. Dude, the Vladimir Putin stooge of Moscow, the mayor of Moscow, the guy who is the Putin prop, effectively, Muppet of Moscow, gave Hunter Biden $3 million. We have no idea why. Why did they give Hunter Biden $3 million? May Moscow ever given you $3 million? So this is just blatantly egregious. They're now locking up their political enemies. They're trying to do this to Trump, so I suppose it should come as no surprise to you. But this FARA violation is the real sticking point here, and they're being asked about it. We'll bring you that reporting in just a second. Check this out.
And perhaps the biggest question of all, why am I being indicted for FARA, for ghostwriting an innocuous article for which I received no payment, let alone from a foreign government, when the mother of all FARA cases, the Biden systemic influence peddling on behalf of foreign governments for which they raked millions, goes unpunished?
That's Gail Luft in his own words. And we're going to break down his whole video here in just a second, but I do want to get to the sticking point before we go into, it's a longer video. Again, our incredible executive producer has broken it all down into the best segments for you to see to understand who this person is and why the Bidens must lock this person up. But I want to get onto this point because they are now prosecuting, they're now bringing charges against this man for the crimes of the Bidens. It is the reverse of what a Christian would teach, right? Like, the Christian principles is that Christ, who was pure and innocent, died for our sins and then took our sins and our shame upon him. This is the inverse of that, where the Bidens, who are guilty as sin, are projecting onto these other people, whether it be Donald Trump. He took documents. Yeah. Donald Trump's, he could potentially threaten national security. Got it. Right. Okay. You put Hunter Biden in charge of your secret document stash inside of your Chinese center for Joe Biden's secret stash of classified documents, otherwise known as the Penn Biden Center. Every crime that they accuse Donald Trump of, they are the ones who are guilty of it. Okay? Hillary Clinton did dirty deals with Russia in order to get information on Donald Trump to meddle with and rig our election in 2016. They accused Donald Trump of doing that exact same thing. Everything. It's bizarro world. You have to be able to live inside a bizarro world. And if you ever watch CNN, MSNBC, you'll realize this is all bizarro world stuff. So they're now taking this Gail Luft guy and they're going to pin the sins of Hunter Biden and his father Joe on this man. That's what's going on here. Check out this wild tweet from Kanoa the Great, just one of the better investigators online as it pertains to this FARA violation. What a stunning twist. The Biden DOJ indicts Gail Luft, a Biden corruption whistleblower, for not registering as a foreign agent with the same Chinese energy company that was paying the Bidens millions. In a widely known text message from July 2017, Hunter explicitly demanded payment from CEFC executives. CEFC. Okay, a lot of acronyms thrown around here. They're trying to make it mysterious. CEFC, let's call it what it is. China Oil. This is just China Oil. This is the China Oil Company, okay? When you see CEFC, just note it's China Oil Company. I'm sitting here waiting for the call with my father. 10 days after Hunter's threat, invoking his father's involvement, CEFC wired $5.1 million into the bank accounts of the Biden family. Ye Jiaming, the chairman of China Oil, gifted Hunter Biden a 3.1 carat diamond valued at approximately $80,000. In an email dated August 2017, Hunter mentioned that Ye Jiaming had agreed to pay him $10 million a year for a 3-year guarantee, totaling $30 million solely for providing introductions. This is foreign lobbying. This is foreign influence peddling. This is the letter of the law when it comes to a FARA violation. Subsequently, in November 2017 email, Hunter Biden and CFC collaborated on plans to sell U.S. natural gas to China. Hunter wrote, I hope that you have received the information I sent regarding the LNG, natural liquefied gas, opportunities in the state of Louisiana. The proposal I have shared with you added benefit for the good of both the United States and China simultaneously. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be having the Attorney General for the state of Louisiana on the show later in the week. Trust me, we'll be asking about this. Why are they not charging the Bidens? Reports suggest that Joe Biden was set to receive 10% of the China energy deal, 10% held by H for the big guy. While Joe Biden Department of Justice accuses Gail Luft of FARA violations on behalf of China Energy, it's conveniently overlooks the far more egregious FARA violations committed by the Biden family, and you can see the damn diamond. Check it out. You can see here, the damn diamond. There's the diamond that they gave to Hunter Biden. You can see it on your screen. It's an $80,000 diamond. That's a massive diamond. You can check out what it looked like when China was carving up American energy reserves. There's a map here to show you what the oil they were planning on selling to our geopolitical enemy in order to make sure that China's military runs on American oil. And Joe Biden has made good on this promise by liquidating our strategic oil petroleum reserves and selling that, of course, to who? China. So they're being asked about this. A New York Post reporter says that Biden aides refused to comment on First Family FARA exposure after American charged for work with the same China firm. Interesting. The White House refused to comment on Tuesday on potential legal exposure for Joe Biden and his son Hunter and his brother James Biden after a U.S. citizen was criminally charged for working as an unregistered agent, same Chinese firm that paid the Biden family. What's the White House take on the FARA violations for the First Family as president? The Post asked White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan at the NATO summit in Lithuania, which is ongoing right now. I've not seen that and can't comment on it. Sure. Right. Wrong. Give me a break. Okay. If you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, who took reporter questions after Sullivan, did not provide any additional comment or immediately respond. This dude is being charged with the crimes of the Bidens. Period. That's what's going on. This guy is being charged with the crimes of the Bidens. So we know, not only based on reporting and based on the Hunter Biden laptop, and we had the top researcher for the laptop on our show yesterday, that the Bidens were corrupt with China, but we also have, lucky for us, a special little voicemail rant from Hunter Biden in his own words, talking about his partnership with the spy chief of China in order to sell American natural gas. We have them in their own words describing their crimes. Here, this is how egregious it's gotten. Have a listen.
I have another New York Times reporter calling about my representation of literally, Dr. Patrick Ho, the spy chief of China, who started the company that my partner, who was worth $323 billion, founded. It is now missing. And I am receiving calls from the Southern District of New York, from the U.S. Attorney himself. My best friend in business, Devin, has named me as a witness without telling me in a criminal case, and my father without telling me.
Interesting. So why didn't you hear about this case? Why didn't you hear about any of this? Because they did wrap up, actually, some of the Biden crime family inside of this charging of Patrick Ho. Federal charges wrapped up. This little Chinese conglomerate, and then the entire China oil deal fell apart. Oh, well, because they were barred from talking about the Bidens during the trial. Check this out.
CFC Secretary General Dr. Patrick Ho, who paid Hunter Biden $1 million for God knows what, was not allowed to mention the word Biden before the jury when he was tried in New York in 2018. The very same prosecutor who is now after me, Daniel Reichenthal, told the judge at the time that mentioning the name Biden would, quote, add a political dimension to the case. And the judge agreed. Which means that if I'm ever brought before a U.S. court, I would not be allowed to utter the word Brussels or Biden. And the real context of my arrest, me being patient zero of the Biden family investigation, would be hidden from the jury. Let it sink in. I, who volunteered to inform the U.S. government about potential security breach and about compromising information about a man vying to be the next president, am now being hunted by the very same people whom I informed and may have to live on the run for the rest of my life.
So this guy, this is again Dr. Gail Luft, this is the guy who was charged with Hunter Biden's crimes, with being in the same business, with the same company. CEFC is the acronym. China Oil is what I call it. China Oil. That's what they're getting this guy on. It's the same company. They are going to pin the Biden crimes on this man. Even though the FARA violations of the Bidens is, again, far more egregious. Check. Can we put up that tweet again one more time, that Kanoa the Great tweet? You can see the diamond. You can see them carving up American natural gas that the Bidens were going to sell to our geopolitical enemy, and you can see the literal diamond that the Chinese gave Hunter. It's gone missing, by the way. Nobody has any clue where this diamond is. No clue. Where'd it go? Exactly. Did it go to the grandchild that Joe refuses to acknowledge in Arkansas? Was it part of the deal? She got some paintings, apparently, in that deal. Man, I would really like to discover a little bit more about it. And also, as we stated, during the debates with Joe Biden, Trump just got to invite London Roberts up on stage. Say, hey, Joe, meet your granddaughter. Meet your granddaughter. You got anything to say to her? You hung a stocking for the dog at the White House, but you didn't hang anything for her. You can see the diamond there. Why would the Chinese be giving a diamond to the Bidens? Well, actually, because precious earth metals are of value and possibly more valuable than the American dollar, obviously. And so in a world of spiraling out of control inflation, collapsing banks, and collapsing stock market, maybe you should consider not doing any dirty deals with the Chinese, but investing in precious metals. That is why we are proud to be sponsored by Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold is who I trust for my investment, who I trust with my precious metals, and who I trust to deliver excellent service. They have a A+ rating, 5 stars, AAA rating with a Better Business Consumer Alliance. They'll take care of you. Trust me. I know these people. They're incredible. Get up to $5,000 with free silver right now on a qualifying purchase when you visit protectwithbenny.com. I don't think they have any 3-carat diamonds for you. You'll have to go check your local jewelers or the laptop repair shops for Hunter Biden. Recently darkened the door. But they will be able to take care of you with silver, gold, and precious metals. Allegiance Gold. Go to protectwithbenny.com today. Protectwithbenny.com today. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we got more news for you from Gail Luft. So Gail Luft talks about his arrest and talks about why this arrest happened in Cyprus, of all places, when he blew the whistle on the Bidens. Remember, this guy's getting arrested for going to the feds and talking about what the Bidens were doing. The reason he knew about what the Bidens were doing was because he himself was involved with these same agencies and organizations. I don't know enough about the story to say this man is completely innocent. I do know enough about the Bidens to say that they are guilty. Watch.
Finally, in February this year, I was arrested in Cyprus on an extradition request from the Southern District of New York, the very same office that met with me in Brussels. The 7-count indictment said I violated the Arms Export Control Act, and if I convicted, I would face up to 100 years in prison. While I was detained in Cyprus, I was portrayed in the international media as an arms dealer, even though I never traded a bullet in my entire life. In fact, nowhere in my indictment the DOJ claimed or presented evidence that I bought, sold, shipped, or financed any weapons.
So the charges of arms trafficking seem to be meritless. The real guilt for this man seems to be that he went and he brought details of illegal activity to our Department of Justice. Now, he did this, by the way, I believe that the timeline is he did this under the Trump Department of Justice. Just to let you know exactly how set up the Bidens are. This is what 70 years in Washington will do for you. Final issue here with Gail Luft is he wants all of the documents made public. Gail Luft has called on the DOJ to make his indictment public. You got to see it. Let's go ahead and look. What do they got the guy on? And he says he's willing to testify to any Republican member of Congress that'll call him in. Watch.
So let me propose an idea. Why won't the DOJ make my indictment public? Do it. Make my day. Put it on your website so that every American can see the nature of the allegations against me, the quality of the evidence, and the length the government is willing to go to weaponize the justice system to punish whistleblowers like me. I have another idea. Why won't the FBI submit to Congress the minutes from the Brussels meeting? Let everybody see what happened in Brussels. Why not? Are you trying to protect anything? Are you trying to protect anybody?
Yeah, obviously. This is an entire racket designed at protecting the Bidens. Jump with me here to Catherine Herridge at CBS with a massive bombshell breaking early this morning. A letter from David Weiss to Lindsey Graham and Senator Durbin confirms that the FD 1023, the old FBI document that's coming back in the news here, was not closed, as some Democrats have suggested. Your questions about the allegations contained in the FBI FD 1023, the Ukraine bribery claims for Hunter and Joe Biden, relate to an ongoing investigation, credibility record, investigative steps taken by the FBI not shared. So Democrats have said that this FD 1023 is a case closed. The FBI looked into this. It's gone. Do not believe the lies. That is what this show is all about. Do not believe the lies. But the lies, baby, are out there. Something is going on, man, and we sort of buckled our show into a trend that we're starting to see, and that trend is continuing right now with Jake Tapper of CNN, one of the greatest regime liars, in his perfunctory role as the chief propagandist for deep state intel, right? Something's going on with this guy. So you got to look to very key individuals. Natasha Bertrand at Politico is one of them, who are just apparatchiks for the regime to see where, like sort of the tea leaves is where things are going. Jake Tapper, of all people, the guy who's chiefly credited with shilling for the Russian collusion narratives, Hunter Biden's laptop was Russia collusion, everything like that, has suddenly changed tune, okay? This comes as the New York Times publish excoriating Joe Biden's character. Axios publish all these damning leaks about Joe Biden being mentally unstable. And The Atlantic says that Joe Biden needs to resign. Huh? And then here we go, Jake Tapper saying, well, I'm now going to be covering Hunter Biden's laptop. Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. Something's happening here. Jake Tapper saying, oh, no. Now the Hunter Biden laptop is fair game for us to cover. All right. Somebody sound out the bat signal, dude. Watch.
Hunter Biden's deal with federal prosecutors and assorted Hunter scandals.
I think we cover it. We have been covering it, and we need to cover it. And, you know, there are these whistleblowers who allege that there was much worse. Mm-hmm. And the DOJ didn't listen. And then you have the former U.S. Attorney Weiss, who says he had complete control, and he's a Republican appointee, a Trump appointee. We just cover it all. I mean, look, I'm not going to shy away from covering Hunter Biden. He is the president's son and has made a lot of money being the president's son.
Made a lot of money being the president's son. When was the last time you heard a guy talk like that from CNN? Talk that openly about Hunter Biden's laptop. Remember, this has all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. Got it. There is another massive disinformation campaign that is being run directly through our government. It is a disinformation campaign to quite literally lie to you via the federal government to decide what is truth. This is antithetical, of course, to the First Amendment, and the letter of our law and the letter of our country. The government doesn't care. They've been violating those rules for the better part of 250 years. Biden administration has begged a judge to continue to allow it to censor via contact with social media companies. The judge rejected this appeal from the White House and accused them of creating an Orwellian ministry of truth by censoring free speech. This is, of course, built on the best ruling we've seen out of our judiciary in a very, very long time. And the reason why this judge on July 4th, of all great dates, decided to say, yo, the government is not the arbiter of truth. You have every right to believe to act upon your conscience, to believe based on what you see as factual. Again, what would this do to religion? What does this say about a state religion, right? That the government can decide what is true and then pressure the companies that allow us to speak to each other, like the way you're watching the show right now, to either silence us, to censor us. It says some very dark, some very bad, some very evil, and some very dangerous things moving forward. And thank God we have an incredible judge. What's the name of the judge again? Judge Daughtry. We have an incredible federal judge who was able to strike this down and was able to just smash the Biden regime over this truly un-American practice. And the reason why he did it was because of the brave attorney generals in the state of Louisiana and the state of Missouri. Ladies and gentlemen, the Missouri Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, who is chiefly responsible for this remarkable ruling and another smashing down of the Orwellian Biden regime, joins the show now. Mr. AG, it's an honor to have you on the program. Thank you, sir. We wouldn't be able to do this without you, and so we want to start by just saying thanks.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. This is a great win for free speech. We're not going to let Joe Biden destroy free speech in America. And that's why this fight's so important, to protect all of our constitutional rights to free, fair, and open debate. We've got to build a wall of separation between tech and state. And the first brick in that wall was laid on July 4th. What a great way to celebrate our nation's independence, the founding of this nation, and by reinvigorating the legacy of freedom handed down to us by the founding fathers in the First Amendment.
Mr. Attorney General, we couldn't agree more. I would like to get perhaps, I have a user's experience with this, right? I drive on the roads of social media every day, and we have a massive audience. They love watching this show live, but you are in the construction of these lanes, and you are really on the higher level planning. So maybe you could elucidate for us what's actually happening here, what this win meant for you, and what the next steps will be, because it seems like the Biden administration is just being handed L after L after L by this judge, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're going to keep fighting. Look, this started with the deep state, and it goes back to the Hunter Biden laptop story that you were discussing earlier. We know that officials from the FBI, who we've deposed as part of this lawsuit, coordinated, colluded, and coerced big tech social media into believing that there was going to be a Russian disinformation campaign related to Hunter Biden that would hit about the time of the election. Now, that's a year before the election, and the DOJ had possession of the Hunter Biden laptop and knew it was authentic, and yet planted the seed, germinated the seed, fertilized the seed of doubt with big tech social media. And then on the very eve before the New York Post breaks the Hunter Biden laptop story, there were secret communications between FBI officials, the Department of Justice, and big tech social media that then caused that story to be suppressed. Now, that's information the American voting public should have had, needed to have, had a right to have, to determine how they should cast their ballots in November of 2020. And they were deprived of that information by the coercive and collusive relationship between the Department of Justice and big tech social media. But it went further than that. Once Biden took office, he continued the coercive and collusive relationship, and he used COVID as the excuse and said, hey, look, anybody who's questioning the effectiveness of the vaccine, anybody who's questioning whether the masks work, we need to suppress that speech on big tech social media. And Anthony Fauci did it. The director of White House digital communications did it. And there was a spectrum of federal bureaucratic agencies that took it over. And it got so big so fast, they had to develop a new bureaucratic apparatus to manage the censorship enterprise. And we know it's grown past that. And so this was a huge win. We filed an amended complaint with 1,400 individual paragraphs, additional facts, additional evidence, additional legal conclusions to support our facts and evidence based on the discovery we'd done. And then we went to court on May 26th and asked for a preliminary injunction. On July 4th, we obtained that injunction. The Department of Justice has appealed, but we're going to keep fighting. And we're excited to get to the merits of the case and root out this vast censorship enterprise.
Because you won on the merits, which is absolutely phenomenal. We have this tweet from you, I believe, sent a day ago, saying the First Amendment remains intact as Joe Biden gets denied for his stay. This is truly the First Amendment at stake. You're not overstating it here.
No, these are the worst First Amendment violations in this nation's history. And certainly the court recognizes that. In a 155-page opinion, the court lays out all the examples of evidence we put on at court on May 26th and says, hey, look, here's another example. Here's another example. Here's another example. The government can't use big tech to do indirectly what it's prohibited by the First Amendment from doing directly. And we all know that the First Amendment, the whole idea is to have an uninhibited marketplace of ideas. The idea is to invite dissent and discussion so the people can get to what is and isn't truthful based on free, fair, and open debate. It's not for the government to decide. That there's supposed to be that wall of separation between tech and state. And again, the first brick was laid, but we're going to keep fighting. Yesterday, the judge denied the Department of Justice's request to stay the injunction. In other words, the Department of Justice was fighting against this injunction. They wanted to keep violating the First Amendment. But if you go to the end of the 155-page order that the court handed down on July 4th, really what the court is saying is that the federal government is prohibited from censoring core political speech. Essentially, they can't do what the Constitution prohibits. They can't attack constitutionally protected speech. Why would they appeal that? They're dedicated to doing it in the future. They say they'll suffer irreparable harm if they're not allowed to censor core political speech. And the court pointed out yesterday that the Department of Justice failed to put on any evidence or assert any fact that they were being prohibited from conducting any lawful activity.
It's core political speech. It's religion. At what point does the government begin to establish its own religion? You're almost starting to see the basis of that now. Its own secular hedonistic religion, where they decide what's true and what's not. You do not want to go down that path. And this is what
absolutely.
you really could extrapolate that into the government straight up saying the Bible isn't true and these stories aren't true and they're not allowed to be taught. You could go if you're going to violate one part of the First Amendment, why not violate all of it? It seems like a logical conclusion.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I like what you said earlier, that the First Amendment protects the right to consciousness, the right to conscience, to think what we want, to say what we want, to hear what we want, and to worship the way we want to worship. It's not an accident or a mistake that the right to free speech, freedom of the press, and freedom of religion were all in the First Amendment, and it's all the very First Amendment. Those rights were given to us by God, not man. And the founders understood that, and that's why they put it in the First Amendment. And the idea behind the Constitution is to protect us from government. But to your point, to the left, the government is religion. They worship at the altar of Joe Biden. The left wants censorship because they want to be told and spoon-fed what is and isn't true. The rest of us want to think for ourselves, and this is frightening stuff. It is absolutely an Orwellian ministry of truth. Let's go back to one of the things the court said in one of the earlier the proceedings in the case. The nerve center of the vast censorship enterprise has been identified as being housed in the Department of Homeland Security in the Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Administration, CISA. Now, think about that for a second. Department of Homeland Security was an agency created in the wake of 9/11 to protect us from foreign attacks. It's now being weaponized against Americans in a violation of our trust and our values. But let's talk about CISA for a minute. It's intended to protect computer systems and roads and bridges, infrastructure. And yet the director of CISA said, well, there's neurological infrastructure as well. What? So all of a sudden our brains are subject to the regulatory authority of an unelected bureaucrat in CISA? I mean, this is absolutely what George Orwell forewarned against in his book 1984, and the court certainly picked up on that. And that's why fighting to protect the freedom of speech and erect this wall of separation between tech and state is so vitally important right now.
I do think it's remarkable the different philosophies. I mean, again, that just blew my mind. Pardon the dad pun here, but it blew my mind to say that the neurological infrastructure, that's what they see our brains as. Man, these people are goblins. And I guess that gets to the point, right? So on the level, philosophically, I build an entire show off of libs saying absolutely asinine things. And we laugh at them, and we joke about it. Every show is a cringe Jean Pierre and AOC. Keep talking, baby. I want to hear it. Keep talking, Joe Biden. I want to hear it. And I don't want to censor these people, right? I guess that's what I'm getting at. I don't know where that comes from. I don't want to silence them. I've never met a lib I wanted to silence. Right? You help make my case for me the more you talk. Where does this come from? You seem like you seem like a smart man. Where does this come from on a philosophical or a spiritual level? Where it's I refuse to let you speak or think.
Well, and I think it's exactly what you're saying. You and I are like-minded in the sense that we put freedom first. Right? We don't exist for the government. The government exists for us, and the government exists to protect our rights, not infringe upon them. But the left values government higher than that. The left says that, well, we're all here to serve the government. I mean, it's absolutely a socialist or Marxist ideology that drives the left, and we've seen that the Democratic Party and the left get pulled further and further in that direction in the past several decades, and it's frightening. I mean, at the end of the day, the question before Americans today is, do you value your right to speak your mind and say and hear what you please, or do you believe that the government has a role in telling you, spoon-feeding you what is and isn't true, and who determines what limiting principles are placed on the government? I mean, at the end of the day, the First Amendment is a timeless principle of freedom, and that the founders trust the people through free, fair, and open debate to come to the truth of the matter, the veracity of arguments and positions based on free, fair, and open debate. absent government censorship. The remedy for disfavored speech in this country has always been counter speech, not government censorship. And it didn't matter that in the 1700s there was a printing press, and then in the 1900s there was radio, and in the 1950s there was television, and in the 1990s there was internet, and now we've got big tech social media. The platform, the mode of communication doesn't matter. It's a timeless principle of freedom codified in the First Amendment. And the question is, are we going to be stewards of that legacy of freedom and hand it off to the next generation, or are we going to squander it?
Mr. Attorney General, I would like to ask one final question on this matter. You've been able to depose some of the most venile members of this censorship apparatus. What has struck you in those depositions? I know Fauci came in.
Yeah, absolutely. We deposed Dr. Anthony Fauci. We deposed FBI agent Elvis Chan in San Francisco, in the heart of the big tech social media community. And look, the brazen impunity with which these government officials operate should frighten everyone, even the left. And so when I see, people like the New York Times saying, this lawsuit is going to hurt the national security apparatus, that in and of itself is disinformation. But like you, I'm not calling for its censorship. I'm coming on your show and explaining how they're wrong, and how one wonders if they would be squealing as loudly if they were the ones censored. This isn't just about, look, at the end of the day, the speech that was censored was, first of all, truthful. Secondly, it was illegal to censor that speech. And third, it was exclusively conservative. We cannot allow.
Are you talking about speech? Are you talking about Hunter Biden laptop?
Yeah, the Hunter Biden laptop is just one example. But every example we provided to the court, it was A, it was illegal to censor the speech. It was core political speech. B, it was truthful speech. And C, it was exclusively conservative speaking. So this is, again, one more example of the federal government and unelected bureaucracies being weaponized against conservatives to silence opposition. And that's a frightening world. It's a dystopian scenario, as the court pointed out in its 155-page court order.
Truly dystopian. We have the article here. I think we're putting it up on screen. The New York Times article that you just referenced, so that everyone can see it. A ruling that could curtail efforts to fight disinformation. Yo, there is no such thing as disinformation. I say this every show. There's information you don't agree with. There's no such thing as a term disinformation that would adhere to somebody being a ministry of truth, like an official truth via the government, right? Like that is that's an Orwellian word in and of itself. They're from the New York Times.
When the beneficiaries of the First Amendment, the New York Times, are the first ones to rail against it. It's absolutely hypocritical. It's dripping with irony.
I do have one unrelated topic, somewhat to what we're discussing, Hunter Biden laptop. We had on Marco Polo researcher Garrett Ziegler yesterday, and he said state attorney generals need to step up in order to bring prosecutions against the Bidens in a manner. I don't think that they did anything illegal in the state of Missouri, but there's a trail of crimes throughout states like Arkansas and Louisiana, and selling pyramid schemes in Florida. Would you recommend that your fellow attorney generals get to the business of actually looking into the Bidens, much like they are trying to do with Trump in the state of New York?
Yeah, look, we can't have a two-tier justice system in the United States of America. And that's what we're suffering under today, this yoke of oppression from President Biden, where it's perfectly legitimate in his eyes to weaponize the Department of Justice against political opponents, both through criminal prosecution and suppression of free speech on big tech social media. And there are numerous other examples. And so states have got to fight back. And I'll stand with my fellow Republican attorneys general across the United States of America in lockstep with them, and assist them and support them in whatever way they deem appropriate and necessary to ensure that we're defending the 10th Amendment as well. That's an equally important amendment to the United States Constitution. And it stands for the principle that any power not explicitly given to the federal government or denied to the states is reserved to the states and the people of the states. And that 10th Amendment is often overlooked and certainly ignored by the federal government as it promulgates illegal rules that exceed the scope of its statutory or constitutional authority.
So, final thing, something that should have maybe been illegal as a Midwestern boy myself. I assume you were raised in the Midwest. I was raised in Iowa, and then we were a Missouri border state, show me state. We would go to St. Louis. We'd go to Busch Stadium. We'd go drink a Bud Light. Like, we'd go see the brewery. But this has been a tough road for Bud Light. This has been a tough time for Budweiser and the king of beers in your home state no longer. Any advice? You seem like a smart and intelligent guy, top law enforcement official in your state. Pretty smart man when it comes to maybe issues of how to present yourself publicly. Any advice to give to Anheuser-Busch?
Well, first of all, we just sent a letter to Target on this similar topic yesterday or recently, questioning their judgment and their responsibility, their fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders by pushing this woke left-wing agenda with these sexually explicit articles of clothing. And here's what frustrates me. Everyone says, well, corporate America is stuck in the middle between conservatives and the woke left. And I disagree altogether. Show me one instance in which Target has sold an article of clothing that had a Bible verse on it, or that had the text of the Second Amendment on it, or that supported the NRA. The too many in corporate America have chosen a side in this culture war, and they chose a poor side, and they're suffering for it, and as well they should.
Great point. Yes, you're exactly right. There are actually the people who sell Bud Light, the people who make Bud Light, the brewers, the people that work in the factory. Those are salt the earth people. And there's plenty of good people who work at Target. And they're having their lives destroyed by these monsters, and someone should protect them. Someone should say this shouldn't be allowed. You're not allowed to close down factories for these hardworking dudes just because you decided to put Dylan Mulvaney on a can. Yeah, you're exactly right. Thank you so much for fighting. This is great. I'm so glad that we got to meet here in front of 20,000 people. And please come back on the show, Mr. Attorney General.
Hey, thank you so much for everything you do. All the best to you and your listeners. Look forward to talking again soon.
All right. Godspeed. The Attorney General brought up Target there. There is, ALX, can we grab that article actually? Amazing article. I think it is like something like 10, 20 Attorney Generals have decided to sue or to send a letter to Target, effectively saying that they have violated child sexualization laws in their states with their Pride Progress display that, of course, Target had to take down and tear down because of this audience. We went and exposed Target because of this audience, in part. Awesome. Amazing. We'll bring you that news. I tweeted it this weekend, ALX. This is from the Gateway Pundit, also of St. Louis. This is a time that you should consider alternatives. Go get a local beer. If you want to do shopping for your family, go to Public Square. Public Square is a marketplace alternative. That's where I found the Benny Brigade keychain. Public Square, baby. It's like a free market, a love of country alternative. It's not a paid ad. I just really like their app. You should consider going to Public Square. Those guys rule. So anyway, good deal with the Attorney General Andrew Bailey of Missouri. Guy is based. Oh, and here's the article. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. There are good vibes and good energy all around. 7 attorney generals send letter to Target warning them that displays have violated laws that protect children from harmful content and sexualize them in their states. That's how you win, baby. That's how you win. That and supporting other patriots. Awesome. Awesome. Public Square. I'm telling you. You'll love the app. Download it. Not a paid ad. I just like their product. Election update time. Here we go. 2024. Boom. Vivek Ramaswamy diffuses heckler in Iowa, letting her speak, answering her question, and then she breaks down in tears. Pretty wild clip. Check this out.
Gender transition today. We're done teaching our troops. Protect our women. Amen. Protect. Amen. And I believe that you know what? The number of rapes that are actually reported in the U.S. military. You can say something to me. It's okay. Come back. Come on back. It's okay.
Somebody non-consensually rapes me, I'm not having their child. It's my choice, it's my body. I'm already raising a kid that somebody implanted in me and doesn't take care of. The system does nothing for the single mother. There's no child support and nobody goes after them. I've been raising a child by myself for 8 years. My name is Kayla Crest.
And are you a mother?
I am a mother.
Okay, thank you.
And my kid is successful, and I don't want to be frowned upon. I don't want to be put down because I'm a single mother. My kid is healthy, happy, and successful.
Thank you, Kayla. And I want to say you're doing one of the most important things as a mother raising more children in this world. Even if we have our disagreements, I want to say thank you for that.
And then the room applauded for her. So what you have there is a clearly hysterical, liberal, feminist, pro-abortion woman who has drank the Kool-Aid, right? Who, it's very curious, her argument there, because she speaks so highly of her own child and her own motherhood experience, yet she says she doesn't want to be implanted. Again, like, you cannot, you can't, hurt people, I guess, is what you got to look at in a situation like that. And you got to understand where human beings are coming from. Abortion is murder, and abortion is, I'm 100% pro-life. But the cycle of abuse causes hurt people to hurt other people. This is a human rights issue, abortion. It's not a women's issue, it's a human rights issue. Because the children that are aborted are boys, girls, don't tell a lib that, but it doesn't matter. Like the child is the one killed. And so when you see a situation like that, it is really like nice. And this is why the campaign trail is so important. It is really nice to like give a little bit of humanity to that hurting person. It's actually the way you start changing hearts and minds, because what these people have been is they have been indoctrinated. They've been embittered. People have weaponized their pain for their own political gain. They radicalize those people, and they continue to hurt them. They take whatever pain, whatever damage was done to that lady, and then they manipulate it and use it to create more pain and more damage in her life. It's totally and completely evil. And what Vivek did there, just letting her talk and letting her like say her piece and having those, like thanking her for being a mother, like that begins like a process of melting down that rigidness and that bitterness that these people hold in their hearts. Could you imagine being so bitter that you would want to kill your own unborn child? Being so jaded by the world? Oh man, no. And you can also make you can also make the decision to behave like that to your fellow human being, and that's what Christ wants us to do. Christ taught with love, also taught with a firm hand, saying what's right and wrong. You can say abortion is 100% murder, and you can also love people and want them to come to your side, not through like brutalizing them or savaging them. It's a good tactic, actually, and we need a lot more of that in America. This is why the campaign trail is so unbelievably necessary. It's also why, if we aren't able to bring anyone around on this show, laying out all the clips, all the facts of all the whistleblowers, Biden locking up the people that are coming after him, the despotism that is running this country right now, is why at the very least, we'll end with a Bible verse. Because at the very least, that Bible verse will be the one true thing that we say during the show, and maybe that'll convince you. We don't know. But we do certainly love our verse of the day. Psalm 100. For the Lord is good, his steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness for all generations. You are not promised justice in this life. You are not promised victory in this life. You are promised justice and victory in the next life, ladies and gentlemen. And you are promised that God's glory will be eternal. Got to keep it in mind. Shift your brain, okay? We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. That's a little bit, that's short. And so fix your eyes on what is actually true. God's faithfulness endures for all generations. His love endures forever. And you can take that to the bank. A lot of evil, a lot of weird stuff going on in the world. A lot of bad stuff. Can you believe it? The president's locking up people who tried to expose him and his crimes. Whew, that is dark. That's evil. There's only one way to combat that kind of evil, and that is with the enduring love and faithfulness that endures for all generations. I will not endure for all generations, but I can tell you I'll be back tomorrow. It's your boy Benny, and this is The Benny Show.